So Hitler, he's back out of prison, only after a few months. He's more popular than ever. He's a big celebrity. Everybody wants to know him. He's great. He's leading the Nazi party. But do you know the big thing that he learned from Hess wasn't how to write. It was actually that the best way to power was through the existing democratic system. Now, I know it sounds crazy, but that's what he was convinced of. Now, Hitler came out of prison understanding that taking a few thousand people up to the city hall wasn't going to get him power, but democracy would get him power. And his popularity wasn't that high at this point in time in Germany. It wasn't that high. But by 1929, the world event that caused trouble throughout the whole of the Western world was what's known as the Wall Street crash. We've had a few, haven't we, in recent times? We know what it's like, economic crashes. But it affected Germany as badly, if not worse, than most, because Germany was still suffering after the First World War. And it became known as the Great Depression. Unemployment soared throughout the whole of Western Europe, but in Germany it escalated beyond belief. Prices went high, wages dropped. All of this exacerbated the existing agricultural crisis, and people were quick to take on Hitler's message. That his message was, democracy has failed you. That was essentially what he said. And he offered positive, clear vision. He offered a utopia, an ideal. He said we should have a national government through strength and unity. And his positive National Socialist message was that the new Reich had to be built on racial values, freeing the genius of the individual and re-establishing Germany's power and strength as a nation. People wanted to hear that. You would have wanted to hear that. We're all human beings. And I've read this many times, and I know, I put myself in that position. Put yourself in that position. Yes, you would respond to that. You would respond to that. Because you want to get out of the mess you're in. Even now we're looking for someone to tell us that in Britain, how to get out of it. And he was telling the Germans, I'll get you out of it. There was many events, many of them beyond his control. They continued to give him one lucky turn after another to climb closer and closer to power. There was many little elections, one election after the other. After several elections, the Nazi party was the largest in the Reichstag. And at that moment, as a dogmatically determined negotiator, as leader of the Nazi party, he virtually forced himself to become Chancellor of Germany. He didn't hold the majority. He just had the biggest single party, but not the majority. So he becomes Chancellor, like our Prime Minister. I'm sure you know what Chancellor of Germany was in the news today, wasn't he? Well, it's just the same job. Okay, so he becomes Chancellor. It's going to be difficult from now on, isn't it? Or is it? In no time at all, very shortly afterwards, the Reichstag, that's like Houses of Parliament in Germany, on fire. This could not have been luckier for Hitler. Yeah, for Hitler, it was luckier. Even if he planned it himself, which we don't think he did, but he used the incident to great advantage. He accused the Jews of setting fire to the Reichstag. And lo and behold, they managed to capture someone near the Reichstag who confessed to doing it, and he was a Jew, he was a Dutch Jew. And that's all Hitler needed, to point his finger and say to the whole of Germany, I told you, the Jews are our enemy. There was the proof. Look at it. Evidence as far as he was concerned. He had a lot of support, a military support, from a huge paramilitary group called the SA. And the SA, or also known as the Brown Shirts, but this it's colossal how they had this non-government paramilitary group of about 4 million people gathered together supporting the Nazis. And their leader was a guy called Ernst Röhm. Ernst Röhm. Now, Ernst Röhm had done enormously well in developing the SA. And their job had really been pretty much muscle men. They would defend any time the Nazis party were having public debates and so on. The SA would be around surrounding everybody, making sure everybody did what they told. Anybody that objected got beat up. That was the way they did it, simple as that. But it included even murder. And as for communists, if you were a communist, you were just going to feel the edge of their boots. Now Röhm then, he became, obviously, in this, he was a leader of the SA, and he saw himself in a position of power. And there's nothing, Hitler wasn't a dictator yet, there's nothing a leader fears more than another potential leader. Yeah, that's the biggest worry. And he immediately saw Röhm, rightly, because Röhm was ambitious. And so what was he going to do about it? Well, Hitler ordered 2 of his SS company. He already had his bodyguards had been developed, and his main bodyguard were the SS, the Leibstandard, which simply means lifeguards. The SS company of Leibstandard, his personal bodyguard, he ordered them to meet him in Munich. He knew that Röhm was in Munich with other leaders of the SA at some gathering. In fact, Hitler had ordered them to gather there. And Hitler, by this time, he'd worked himself up so hard. He was nearly hysterical with anger. And he interrupted all the Gestapo reports, which were coming in now to suit him, of course, showing that Röhm was betraying him. Well, that's all he needed. So he drove his SS troops to the Hotel Hanselbauer, where Röhm and the other SA leaders were staying. With his pistol in his hand and his SA hardmen behind him, he had personally arrested Röhm, and he had 6 of the others shot immediately without trial. He then sent Röhm to prison and gave him a gun. He never gave him a gun. He was given a gun with the option of shooting himself. But Röhm refused to shoot himself, so 2 of the guards came in and did it for him. That's how Hitler dealt with his opposition, even in 1934. That was on the 30th of June, and that infamous cold-blooded mass murder became known as the Night of the Long Knives. Because I'm going to ask you, put your hand up, what is the link between these people? Come on.
They're all corrupt politicians. All related to.
Not good enough. Thank you. See, took an astute observer to notice it. Indeed.
What is it?
Sex scandals, okay? Sex. Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Do we need to tell you them all? Yeah?
Is that
Edward
Christine
Kennedy.
Keeler? I don't think Hitler had anything
A few
to do
more.
with Christine Keeler.
You didn't, that's right. It was Christine Keeler, a few more. Jeremy Thorpe, and of course our friend Clinton. Yes, they were all brought down by sex scandals. This is the point. Sex scandals, for a leader, one setback that leaders have always had the most difficulty surviving was a sex scandal. Whether true or false, half true, half false. Scandals always stick, invariably becoming the first tag that people attach to the name. I mean, as soon as you see Clinton, who do you think on? Yes. Even way back Caligula, just very quickly, I like to relate things to history just to show you that these situations are not unique at all. Caligula assassinated in AD 41 after less than 4 years as emperor because of his perverse sexual practices. Edward II, King of England, homosexual, despised, and he was murdered by having a red-hot poker pushed into somewhere you really wouldn't want to know. So which of these are true then? Come on. Who can tell me which of these are true? Hitler was a homosexual. Hitler was asexual. He had no interest in sex. He preferred nubile teenage girls. He enjoyed sex games and perversions. He was a pseudo-masochist. He could be brought down with a sex scandal.
Number 3.
Number two.
Good, good. He was asexual. Yes? Anybody else agree with it? Agree?
Yeah.
Is that the general agreement? Yeah, that he was asexual. Completely wrong.
Just number 6.
Completely wrong.
Yes.
Yeah? Which is a bit of a surprise. It's not what people think. From 1926 to 1938, how Hitler survived not one sex scandal, but all of these sex scandals. Yes? He had a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old shop worker. He had his live-in niece shoot herself dead. He had a teenager from the British aristocracy captivate his interest and shoot herself in the head. He had another 20-year-old lover shoot herself in a first attempt, only to fail for a second time 2 years later. He avoided a scandalous connection to a Jewish princess by whom he had been beguiled, and a glamorous actress who had ended matters by throwing herself out of a window. That's a pretty good list of sex scandals. How did he avoid them? If Hitler's perverted sexual demands had been exposed to his adoring public, then he would surely have been finished long before the war started. But they weren't, of course, thanks to the Gestapo. Okay, so his good luck continues, and because of time, I can only just give you the headlines at the moment. I'm quite happy to discuss anything later. The appeasement, the period of appeasement. Was that good luck or was that negotiating genius? Well, you can make up your own mind. Hitler's luck with his henchmen, people who gathered around him, like he was like a magnet, and these people were like nails. They straight into him. Yeah, Goebbels, Goring, Himmler, Heydrich, Keitel, Bormann, Hess, Speer. All of them were actually brilliant at their jobs. He was lucky, in that sense, to have these people with so much talent come rushing to him. He never recruited them. There was no advert in the paper. He never interviewed them. These people just arrived, offered their services, offered their souls, really. And they were all, this fantastic phrase, working towards the Führer. Such a good phrase. Means anything you want it to mean. You can do anything you like. I'm only working towards what the Führer thinks. Hitler gave very few specific orders of the horrors that we know were committed. He never ordered these things. He just spoke about things. And his henchmen interpreted it and went out and did it. So from that point of view, gruesome and evil though it is, he was lucky from that point of view that he had these people to do it all for him. The Manstein Plan, of course, in 1940, the great invasion of Normandy. Assassinations. 20 of the 40 plus attempts, 40 plus known attempts to kill Hitler between 1932 and 1945. Nearly succeeded. Very nearly succeeded. Some great stories I'd love to tell you, but we're at times against us. And then in 1941, then, this is the big moment now. Everything's been going so well for Hitler. He actually was believing it was him. It wasn't luck. It was all his talent. Yeah? It was all because of him. He could do anything now. He even could surpass his generals. They knew nothing, as far as he was concerned. And that's when the good luck ends. And that's when the mistakes begin.